Metabolical by Robert H. Lustig, M.D., M.S.L. Picture this for a moment. You've had one of those days. You drag yourself through the front door, completely wiped out and starving, and you collapse into your kitchen chair. The TV flickers on, and without even thinking about it, you start shoveling down a plate of poison. But here's the thing. It looks delicious. It tastes even better than the real stuff. Your brain is telling you this is exactly what you need. Except it's slowly killing you. Not in some dramatic, clutch your throat and fall over kind of way. This poison takes its time. It works quietly, patiently, over years and years, until one day you feel it in your chest, in your brain fog, and definitely in your bank account when the medical bills start rolling in. This sounds like something out of a thriller, right? But according to Dr. Robert Lustig, the physician guiding us through this book, this is actually your Tuesday night. The poison. Processed food. Dr. Lustig is a pediatric endocrinologist who spent over 40 years watching something disturbing unfold. Kids, actual children, started showing up in his clinic with diseases that used to only hit people in their 60s. Type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, serious obesity. And the worst part? Nothing was working. The standard advice of just eat less and move more was failing everyone. The medications he prescribed just put a Band-Aid on symptoms, while the real problem kept festering underneath. So he went on a mission, a deep, scientific investigation that led him to conclusions so contrary to everything we've been taught that he literally calls it medical heresy. His book, Metabolical, is the story of that journey. It exposes what he calls the lure and the lies of processed food, nutrition, and modern medicine. Today we're diving headfirst into his argument. We'll uncover how our food got hijacked, how medicine lost its way, and how we ended up sick, confused, and frustrated. But more importantly, you'll discover the beautifully simple truth hiding underneath all the chaos. By the time we're done, you'll understand two fundamental principles, just 6 words, that govern your health. Master these, and you take back control over your body, your energy, and your life. Ready for it? Here it is. Protect the liver and feed the gut. Let's dive in. Our story kicks off with a simple question. Imagine there's a wasp buzzing around your attic. What do? Chase it around all afternoon with a fly swatter, getting frustrated and exhausted? Or do you find the nest and take care of the problem at the source? Obviously, you go for the nest. Dr. Lustig realized that our entire healthcare system has been chasing individual wasps for decades. We've got brilliant doctors, cutting-edge hospitals, and medications that seem like science fiction. We spend more money per person on healthcare than any other country on earth. And yet, Americans are shockingly unhealthy. Our life expectancy is actually dropping. By almost every measure, we're getting sicker. How is this even possible? Lustig's answer is simple but devastating. Modern medicine has become obsessed with treating symptoms instead of the actual disease. Your doctor can hand you a pill for high blood pressure, another for cholesterol, and a third for blood sugar. But that's just swatting wasps. The nest, the root cause creating all these problems, remains untouched. The real disease isn't obesity or heart disease or diabetes. Those are just labels we slap on symptoms. The actual disease is something called metabolic dysfunction, a breakdown in how your cells process energy. And the main culprit driving this disaster? Our modern, ultra-processed diet. To understand this, we need to tear down some of the biggest lies we've been fed about health. The first massive lie is that your weight is the problem. We've been brainwashed to think you gain weight first, then get sick. Dr. Lustig flips this on its head. For most people, you get sick first, then the weight piles on. The sickness is metabolic dysfunction, specifically something called insulin resistance. When your cells stop responding properly to insulin, your body has to pump out more and more of it just to do basic jobs. High insulin is basically a megaphone screaming at your body to store fat. So the weight gain isn't the cause. It's a symptom of the hormonal chaos underneath. This explains something scientists have been scratching their heads about for years. About 20% of obese people are metabolically perfectly healthy. Their blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar, all normal. They're called the metabolically healthy obese. Meanwhile, a shocking 40% of normal weight people have the exact same diseases as obese folks: high blood pressure, wonky cholesterol, even type 2 diabetes. They're thin on the outside, fat on the inside. What's the difference? It's not the fat you can pinch. It's the fat you can't see. The fat packed around your organs, especially your liver. Liver fat is the real villain driving metabolic disease, and your bathroom scale has absolutely no idea it's there. This is why Lustig says obsessing over obesity is a complete distraction from what actually matters. The second lie? That bad cholesterol is your heart's mortal enemy. For decades, doctors have told us to slash our cholesterol with low-fat diets and statin drugs. But the science tells a very different story. Turns out there isn't just one type of bad cholesterol. There are two flavors. There's a large, fluffy, harmless kind that basically floats around doing nothing dangerous. And then there's a small, dense, nasty kind that actually clogs your arteries. The standard cholesterol test, it lumps them both together. Here's the kicker. Low-fat diets and statins are great at lowering the harmless, fluffy stuff, but they barely touch the dangerous particles. So your doctor congratulates you on your improved numbers, while the real threat is still lurking. And what creates these dangerous particles? Not dietary fat. It's high insulin, driven by a diet loaded with refined carbs and sugar. Once again, we're treating a symptom and ignoring the cause. This brings us to the third lie, that salt is the main villain behind high blood pressure. While some people are genuinely salt sensitive, for most of us, the real problem is, you guessed it, high insulin. Insulin tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium instead of flushing it out. So even if you're eating a low-salt diet, if your insulin is through the roof, your blood pressure stays high. And what spikes insulin harder than almost anything? Sugar. Studies actually show that cutting sugar can drop blood pressure more effectively than cutting salt. The final lie is that diabetes is a disease of high blood sugar. This sounds crazy, but Lustig makes a compelling case that high blood sugar is the last domino to fall, not the first. For years, sometimes decades, before your blood sugar starts creeping up, your body has been fighting a losing battle with insulin resistance. Your pancreas has been working overtime, pumping out massive amounts of insulin just to keep your blood sugar normal. All that excess insulin has been quietly wreaking havoc, storing fat, cranking up inflammation, raising blood pressure. By the time your blood sugar finally rises and you get diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes, the war is already over. The disease has been raging for years. And what do? Prescribe drugs to lower blood sugar, which often means giving even more insulin. It's like turning up the volume for someone who's already gone deaf. Short-term fix, long-term disaster. So if obesity, cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood sugar are all just symptoms, what's the actual disease? The real disease is happening deep inside your cells, at a level you can't see or feel. Dr. Lustig identifies 8 specific breakdowns, 8 subcellular pathologies that are the true root of all chronic disease. Things with intimidating names like mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and glycation. These aren't just fancy medical jargon. Think of them as the fundamental machinery of life getting corroded, jammed, and broken down. And here's the most important part. None of these 8 pathologies can be fixed with a pill. There's no drug that can repair a broken mitochondrion. But, and this is huge, they're all foodable. Every single one can be improved or worsened by what you eat. This brings us to the beating heart of the entire book. Protect the liver and feed the gut. Let's unpack that. First, protect the liver. Your liver is mission control for your metabolism. It processes everything you eat and drink. When you overwhelm it, things go sideways fast. And what overwhelms the liver more than anything else? Fructose. Now, fructose is what makes fruit taste sweet. In fruit, it comes wrapped in fiber, which slows down absorption and protects your liver. But when fructose gets stripped from its fiber and concentrated, like in soda, fruit juice, and basically all processed foods, it becomes toxic. Unlike glucose, which every cell in your body can use for energy, fructose can only be processed by the liver. When a tidal wave of fructose hits your liver, it has no choice but to convert it into fat. This is where that hidden liver fat comes from. And here's the disturbing part. This process is virtually identical to how your liver handles alcohol. This is why kids today are developing alcoholic diseases, fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, without ever touching a drop of booze. They're getting it from the sugar in their diet. So protecting the liver means cutting down on sugar, especially fructose. Second, feed the gut. Living inside your intestines are about 100 trillion bacteria, your microbiome. These aren't just hitchhikers. They're active partners in your health. And they need to eat. What do they eat? Fiber. When you eat real food, packed with fiber, you're feeding these beneficial bacteria. In return, they strengthen your intestinal wall, produce anti-inflammatory compounds, and help regulate your immune system. But processed food has had almost all its fiber stripped out. Why? To make it last longer on shelves and easier to inhale. When you eat processed food, you're literally starving your gut bacteria. And when they get desperate enough, they start feeding on you. They eat the protective mucus lining of your own intestine. This leads to leaky gut, which allows bacterial toxins to seep into your bloodstream, triggering chronic inflammation throughout your entire body. So the rule is beautifully simple. Food that protects the liver and feeds the gut is healthy. Food that does neither is poison. Real food, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, is naturally low in sugar and high in fiber. It does both. Processed food is the exact opposite. High in sugar, low in fiber. It does neither. But how did we end up in this upside-down world where poison is marketed as food? Dr. Lustig takes us on a historical journey showing this was no accident. It was a series of deliberate decisions driven by profit and politics. It started in the early 20th century with something called the Flexner Report. Funded by industrialists like John D. Rockefeller, this report standardized American medical education. It emphasized scientific, research-based medicine, which sounds great, but it also had an agenda, aligning medicine with the pharmaceutical industry. The new model was all about finding a pill for every problem. Nutrition, which couldn't be patented or sold at massive markup, got pushed to the sidelines. To this day, most doctors get virtually zero nutrition training during their entire medical education. At the same time, the field of dietetics was being born, but on surprisingly shaky ground. Its origins trace back to religious figures like Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, yes, the cornflakes guy, a devout Seventh-day Adventist who believed meat stirred up animal passions and promoted sin. This anti-meat, pro-carbohydrate ideology got baked into dietetics, not because of rigorous science, but because of religious belief. Then came the government. In 1977, the United States government issued its first dietary guidelines for Americans. Following a flawed theory pushed by a scientist named Ansel Keys, the guidelines demonized dietary fat and told everyone to eat low-fat, high-carb diets. The food industry did a happy dance. They stripped fat out of their products, but to make them taste good, they replaced it with something cheaper and way more addictive: sugar. The infamous food pyramid of the 1990s, with its massive foundation of bread, cereal, and pasta, was the final blow. It wasn't designed by nutrition scientists trying to make us healthy. It was designed by agricultural lobbyists trying to sell the mountains of cheap commodity crops the country was producing. Dr. Lustig calls this whole setup an immoral hazard, a system where industries and governments knowingly rig the game to profit from public suffering. Big food makes us sick with processed junk. Big pharma sells us drugs to manage the symptoms, and the government, in bed with both industries, looks the other way. It's a bleak picture, but Lustig isn't without hope. The way out isn't a miracle drug or trendy diet. The way out is rejecting the processed food system and returning to real food. He dismantles the, quote, fake diet war between keto and vegan advocates, pointing out that both approaches, when built on real food, can be healthy. Why? Because a real food vegan diet full of vegetables and legumes, and a real food keto diet full of healthy fats and non-starchy vegetables, both end up low in sugar and high in fiber. They both protect the liver and feed the gut. The enemy isn't meat or plants, the enemy is processing. So how do we start? Dr. Lustig offers some simple survival rules for navigating the modern supermarket, a place he describes as a minefield designed to make you fail. First, shop the perimeter of the store. That's where real food lives. Produce, meat, fish, dairy, eggs. The inner aisles are processed food territory. Second, if a product has a health claim on the package, low fat, heart healthy, whatever, it's a red flag. Real food doesn't need to brag. An apple doesn't have a label screaming high in fiber. It just is. Third, check the ingredients. If sugar, in any of its 262 different disguises, is in the first 3 ingredients, put it back. It's dessert. And finally, he offers a powerful message of empowerment. This isn't about shame or blame. It's about understanding. Understanding that your health battle isn't just personal willpower. It's a fight against a system engineered to make you fail. But with the right knowledge, the simple truth of protecting your liver and feeding your gut, you have the power to win. Reading Metabolical is like getting prescription glasses for the first time and suddenly seeing the world in high definition. All that confusing blur of contradictory health advice suddenly snaps into crystal clear focus. The most powerful shift for me was moving from self-blame to systemic understanding. For so long, the health narrative has been about personal failure. If you're overweight or sick, it's because you lack willpower. You're lazy and gluttonous. Dr. Lustig destroys this idea. He shows us we're fighting a biochemical battle against food engineered to be addictive and a medical system designed to manage disease, not reverse it. This is incredibly freeing. It replaces shame with power. It tells us we're not broken. The system is. And once you see the system clearly, you can navigate it differently. The urgency has never been clearer. As Lustig points out in a chapter written during the early days of the pandemic, the virus didn't affect everyone equally. The people most at risk of severe illness and death were those with underlying health conditions, the very diseases of metabolic syndrome that processed food creates. Our diet has made us fragile, It set us up not just for chronic disease, but for acute catastrophe. Real food isn't just about long-term health. It's about resilience, right here, right now. So how do we apply these lessons to our lives, starting today? Trying to change everything at once is overwhelming, so let's not. Let's start with a few simple, practical actions. First, take the 1-week sugary drink challenge. For the next 7 days, eliminate all sugary drinks. That means soda, fruit juice, sports drinks, and sweetened coffee or tea. Replace them with water, plain tea, or black coffee. Don't change anything else, just this one thing. At the end of the week, notice how you feel. It's a simple experiment in reclaiming your palate and protecting your liver. Second, become a food detective on your next grocery trip. Pick one packaged item you normally buy: cereal, a snack bar, pasta sauce. Ignore the flashy claims on the front and flip it over to read the ingredients. Ask yourself, how many ingredients are there? Where does sugar appear on the list? Remember, if it's in the top 3, it's dessert. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. And third, adopt the 6-word mantra: protect the liver, feed the gut. Write it on a sticky note and slap it on your fridge. Let it be your simple filter. When you're deciding what to eat, ask, will this protect my liver? Will this feed my gut? You don't have to be perfect. But this simple question can shift your choices, meal by meal, toward real food and real health. This journey isn't about punishing yourself with another diet. It's about starting a revolution. A quiet, personal revolution against a system that's profited from our confusion for way too long. Dr. Lustig's work gives us the clarity and courage to begin. The power isn't in some future pill or complicated program. It's on your plate, right now. That was a summary of Metabolical by Dr. Robert Lustig. We've explored the core ideas today, but honestly, a summary is like looking at photos of the Grand Canyon. The real magic happens when you stand at the edge yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase from the author hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or resonated with something you're struggling with, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change how you see your food, your health, and the world around you. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It helps us reach more people and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.